All right, what's up, everybody? So, welcome back. We are back in Sonoma County, back from our trip up in Oregon, checking out Eugene, over to Bend, and back down. And man, what a week! We got a lot to unpack. So let's kind of get into it. But before that, I want to take another step back, look at the week before that, and a couple things to really give perspective on this week. So remember, we did the hill repeat workout, and I was feeling great on the workout itself, but it was kind of the next day and the few days after that the knee really started not feeling good. The tendonitis really kind of flared up a little bit. It just wasn't feeling great. Then we drove up to Eugene, did a long run up there, and the long run was what it was. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. We got through it. The knee didn't feel really that good. I wanted to really kind of press the later portion of the long run, but that just didn't happen. The knee was bothering me enough. I think it was kind of affecting my mechanics a little bit, and so we just decided to scratch that, just get through the run, and call it a day. So that's the previous week. Now this last week we had a plan. And in the last video we saw the plan, and that was really exciting. But once we got to Eugene, the plan kind of started falling apart because my wife and I decided what the plan was and where we were at didn't really match up very well, and that's fine. That is okay. I wanted to kind of mention and talk a little bit here that taking some time off, albeit not optimal, not the greatest thing, but it's also not the end of the world. Okay. So let's kind of work through the first half of the week, and then I'll pause and talk about what we did and how that will affect and how that is different than just taking the time off. Okay. And how that really affects how things are going to move forward in training. Okay. So we get to Eugene, we leave Eugene, we get to Bend. Monday's our first full day in Bend, and the great thing was, right from the place that we were staying, there were some trails that we could just go from, right from our door. We didn't have to drive anywhere. That's the thing about Bend that I found out, is there are hundreds of miles of trails just everywhere. It is almost a paradise for distance runners where we can just go run. It's even a little bit of altitude, right? So I think the city itself is about 3,500. Some of the runs that we were doing were even as high as like 5,000, and it's not kind of anywhere in between there. So kind of that minimal altitude where you get the benefits of being at altitude, but not such a high altitude where you just don't feel like you can recover. I've been places like Mammoth where you're at 8,000 feet altitude, and you're laying down to go to bed, and you're just like, I'm out of breath laying here. Like, that's different altitudes. Okay, not all altitude is created equally. So yeah, being there at 3,500 feet, like that was nice. Where it's like, yeah, I know I'm going to get a little bit of benefit from it, but I never felt like I was just out of breath all the time. Okay, so back to the training. So I went for a run just to kind of check things out, and it was awesome. I went for a run. The knee didn't feel great. It didn't feel bad. It was kind of somewhere in between. On a scale of 1 to 10, it was probably like a 2 to 3 on the pain scale. Low enough that I didn't feel like I just had to scrap the run and call it a day, but not low enough where I really felt confident in the rest of the week. So that's kind of about the point that we decided that this rest of the week was going to get scrapped and just taken day by day. Okay. Come Tuesday, we decided to just take the day and explore, walked around the town, checked out some shops, and by the time the day got over, we were just like, you know what, the knee's kind of bothering me walking around. I'm just not going to run today. I'm going to take the day off. And we really, the focus of the week, I think I mentioned this in the last video, but there wasn't like a Monday, Thursday strength training. The focus that we decided to shift was, instead of having 2 big workout strength days, it was just, hey, here's the rehab stuff. My wife's been dealing with some stuff in her calf, and so we both kind of had our rehab stuff, and we're just like every day just being on top of it and doing that rehab stuff every day. We also did a light core session each and every day. again, nothing major, nothing, but it was just like consistency each day, making sure we got that work in. Okay, so Monday, light run. Tuesday, just kind of light movement around town, just kind of walking around, still getting some mechanical load on all the tissues and stuff, still being at altitude, getting a little bit of aerobic component, but not nearly the stress and aerobic adaptation that we'd want to from an actual run. Okay. And from that point on, we're like, okay, things are still kind of not great. So Wednesday rolls around, and my wife and I decide, you know what, let's just go for a bike ride. We rent a couple of mountain bikes, and again, hundreds of miles of trails in Bend. We just picked a trail and followed the Deschutes River and just went. We went down about an hour, turn around, hour back. So I got 2 hours of aerobic stress right there. Knee didn't feel too bad because I wasn't putting the eccentric load that running puts on those tissues, right? So the real high force intensive stresses that can go on those. So that was great. Knees feeling a little bit better. Still getting the aerobic component. Still getting all the stuff through all of that. Thursday rolls around. My wife goes for a run, and I'm like, you know what? We're on a good track. We're feeling a lot better. Let's continue feeling better and not risk it. So I ran another mountain bike for the day, went out, did another, I think it was like an hour and a half almost worth of riding. Just picked another trail, just went, no plan. I was like, I'm gonna ride until I feel like I've ridden enough, turn around and ride back. Awesome. More aerobic component. Still not doing a whole lot in the way of running and really pounding on the legs, and so the knees feeling better and better each day. Kept doing the exercises, kept doing my rehabs, feeling better. My wife and I decided, you know what, maybe we should get a little bit of mechanical load on the leg, and so on top of that, we went for a hike. Went and saw this beautiful hike. Hiked all the way up to one of the waterfalls there in Bend. Enjoyed some time, had some lunch up there, turned around, walked back. I think it was about 6-ish miles total for the out and back. So about 3.25 out, 3.25 back. So I guess about 6.5 miles there. So again, getting some mechanical load, not as much as if I was running, and that's fine. And then Friday, I was feeling better, and so you know what? I went out and I did a little bit of a test run. It wasn't super long. It was, I think, about 6-ish miles. But just enough. No, it was even less than that. It was like 5 miles. It was just enough to kind of test the knee out before the long run on Saturday. And that was the whole goal. Is I was like, okay, I'm going to go for this short run just to make sure that I'm feeling good for the long run. Okay, because I didn't want to get out there and start the long run and be like, oh, yeah, I'm feeling okay, and then get halfway out and be like, no, my knee is not feeling good. So did the run just as like a tester for the long run. Okay, so before we get to the long run, let's take a look back at the week and what we did and why we did it that way. Okay. So one of the things that a lot of runners worry about is, if I take a day off, I'm gonna get out of shape. If I take a week off, I'm just gonna be back to square one. No, that's not how it works. That's not how physiology happens. So what happens is, if you don't run, are you going to lose some fitness? Yes. How much are you going to lose? It depends. If you look at a lot of the research out there, if you take a week off, you will lose about 2 to 3% of your aerobic fitness. And these are markers such as your VO2 max, your lactate thresholds, all these markers that we can measure in the lab. They'll decrease by about 2 to 3%. Not much. Okay. When I talk to a lot of runners, they think about it like, oh man, if I take a week off or I take 2 weeks off, I'm going to, be completely out of shape. Might as well be starting from square one. If you take all that time off, like I said, about 2 to 3%, whatever. And the part they don't realize is the amount of time that you took off. The research shows it takes about half of that amount of time for you to come back. Okay. So if I take 2 weeks off, it'll take about a week of training to get back to where I was at the start of that 2 weeks. Okay. If I take a month off, it'll take about 2 weeks to come back. If I take 6 months off, it'll take about 3 weeks, or 3 months, sorry. It's always about half to get back to where you were. And that's if you take it off. If we start doing like what we did this week, and we started implementing little pieces here and there, it's actually less that you lose than that, okay? The fact that I was up at altitude means I'm going to get a little bit more stress aerobically just doing any activities, okay? So the fact that we went for a hike, the fact that I went for a little easy run, the fact that I went for a couple of bike rides, those are all aerobic activities. Are they as intense as what I was doing before? No. Is it enough to maintain where I was at? Probably. Okay. Even though I wasn't doing the massive amounts of stuff that I was doing before, by still doing something, you can maintain much easier. Okay. It takes a lot of work to improve. It takes a lot less work to maintain. Okay. And so that's one of the key things that I want to get out there to a lot of runners is if you're having issues like I'm having right now, dropping that workload down to get healthy, dropping that workload down so you can do other things, you can still maintain. You may not be improving, and that's fine. Okay. My wife and I talked about this. We're like, we still have, many weeks before the marathon. We have many workouts to do to get prepared for the marathon. Let's take a little bit of downtime now, maintain a little bit so that we can start doing a lot of those bigger workouts soon. Okay. I'm actually almost looking at this as a blessing in disguise because I'm finding out that, I may have had some insufficiencies, some weaknesses that I didn't realize until I started ramping up my intensity again and my volume again, getting ready for the marathon. I'm glad that I have this little bit of knee thing going on now so that I can address those insufficiencies now, early on in the training cycle, and not all of a sudden at the very end when we get to like 2 weeks out and all of a sudden, my knee hurts and I can't run the marathon. Cool. I'm glad I'm getting it done and taken care of now so that I can start building everything up to then. Okay. So I hope that all makes kind of sense. If there are more questions that you have down in the comments, let me know and I'll try and address them in future videos. So, okay. That's all kind of that stuff. The last part of the week that we got to was the long run. Okay, the long run that we did this week, a little not traditional. Okay, but it works. Okay, and I'm gonna kind of go talk through the process and discuss this. So the idea this week was just a trail run. Okay, like I said before, Bend has a lot of trails. So many trails. Actually, I've got a picture here. This is just the number of that trail. That's not like how many trails there are. That's just that one. There are more than that in Oregon. So that just gives you an idea of how many trails we had to choose from. Well, we're just like, yeah, we'll just go start from this spot and we'll go run and we'll figure it out from there. Okay, we didn't need to plan. What are those? But what we did was we ran a loop and we realized it was a smaller loop than we thought it was. Only ended up being about 6 miles. And the plan for the day was about 2 hours and 10 to 2 hours and 20 minutes, just trail time. But we finished that 10K loop and we're like, oh man, that wasn't what we were hoping for. Like, we could just do that loop a couple times. But we're like, no, I'm actually kind of getting a little hungry. Need to use the restroom. And so what we ended up doing was we did the 10K in the morning, got some food, went and talked to the local running store and be like, hey, what's a good 10-mile loop around here? And they gave us a cool 10-mile loop on the outskirts of town. And so we drove out there within a relatively short period of time. Realize it's not like we did one at 8 in the morning and another one at like 5 in the evening. Like they were relatively close together. It was like run, eat, check out with the running store, give us just enough time, like an hour or so for the food to digest, and then we were driving out to the other trail. And we did another 10-mile loop. So we got 16 miles in over a relatively short period of time. It was broken up into 2 runs, and that's fine. Is it going to be as good as a single long run? Maybe not 100%. Is it close? Yeah, it's pretty close. So if you're somebody that's struggling with building up your volume getting to that mark where you need to for, whatever race it is you're coming up to, you can break it up into morning and evening sessions. You hear about professional athletes do that all the time, of doubling. Easy run in the morning, longer run in the evening, or vice versa. We used to do that all the time in college. You do your easy run, maybe some weights in the morning, and come back and do a bigger run in the afternoon, or vice versa. It's totally up to you on what fits for you. But yeah, that is totally an option for training. Again, is it a little bit of a nuisance that you're kind of spending all day on 2 runs because you're like, oh, I run, I recover from the run, but I'm getting ready for the next run, then you have another run. So it does take up a little more of your day than just one single run, but it is a way of breaking up the work to make it a little bit easier on your body. Okay. And then Sunday, we took off because we drove from Bend all the way back down here to Sonoma County, and that was a 9-hour day, and we got back and we were tired, and we didn't want to run, so we didn't. So there was that. But yeah, that was the week. Let's see here. Let's break it down. What do we have? The good of the week. I think we made a lot of good progress on the knee. The knee feels a lot better. I think we've got a direction that we're going to go. I'm going to talk about next week, and kind of the direction we're going to go with that, and kind of utilizing some of the stuff we took from this last week. Kind of as we're improving, we can kind of shift some things, but still use some of the things that we learned on this last week to move forward. And I think we're on a good path. My knee is feeling a lot better than it was a week ago. When we went for the long run, I said, the week before when we ran in Eugene, the knee was at like a 3 on the pain scale of 1 to 10. I would say that it was like a 1 on the long run at that point. The fact that we sat in a car for 9 hours, I think is going to tighten things up, and I may be a little bit more, sore and everything on the first run of this next week. But I'm hoping that by the kind of the trajectory we've been going, it's going to feel better as we go through this week. So I think the thing is, I'm going to stay away from hills just a little bit, especially higher intensity hills, for this next week or two, because that seemed to be what really triggered it in the first place. So that was good. The bad, I didn't get quite as much as I was hoping to in this week. We're in Bend. We're in the land of trails. I was hoping to get a little bit more, miles out there running. Didn't get to. I still got to explore a little bit on the mountain bike. I went for a hike. It was what it was. I wish I could have taken advantage of being at altitude a little bit more. Some of the aerobic stuff that we were planning on doing. We didn't get any big workouts in, but I was still able to get a fair amount of aerobic time. If we look at the amount of time that I spent working out this week versus what I would have done any other week, time wasn't that different. It was just a lot lower intensity. Time on the mountain bike, time hiking, a couple of runs, things like that. Like, I got some time in of aerobic training. It just wasn't the aerobic training that I was expecting. Okay, so that was the bad. What's kind of the goal for next week? The big thing for me next week is it's supposed to be hot. It's summertime. I'm prepared. So really making sure that I schedule my time around the temperature a little bit, and really focusing on hydration. Especially when temperatures spike up, a lot. I don't really pay attention. I don't catch onto it as soon. It's usually like the following week that I'm like, oh, right, it's hot out. I need to hydrate more because I'm tired. Why am I tired? Because I'm dehydrated. Why am I not feeling great? Because I'm dehydrated. It's kind of one of those retroactive things. So I need to be proactive. I need to be paying attention to my hydration ahead of time and really jumping on it before it becomes an issue. Oh, that was one other thing when we were in Bend. It's summertime, and we looked at the weather, and it was supposed to be mid-70s, and we were like, this is going to be glorious. It's going to be a great week. We got up there. Weather changed. It was cold. It was raining. There was one day it started hailing. So that was one of the other things about not running as much is I was like, you know what? It's okay. I'm fine not running as much because the weather did not turn out exactly how we were expecting it. So, all right, that's all I got for this week. Hopefully it was a nice little review and gave you some things to think about when you're looking at your own training about like, hey, you know what? We got some injuries. We're early on. Am I going to lose all this fitness right away? No. Is it going to feel like I lose some fitness? Yeah, because guess what? You're not as sharp. The fitness is there. We just need to sharpen up a little bit. And so it'll probably take me, this week to kind of get through and feel okay with the workouts. But I'll be fine. It's not the end of the world. So, all right, that's it. I'll talk to you guys next time. Happy running.